Ubank is going to be placed under curatorship. Now, Devan, the significance of Ubank is that it is the bank for many people living in rural areas and a large portion of the mining sector. And Lesetja Kganyago moving very quickly to say your assets are secured. But this is still a huge announcement for the 4.7 million accounts that are being held in this bank. And we don't quite know, or I certainly didn't understand, maybe you know, what's gone wrong?
Yeah, I was searching to see whether or not there was evidence of anything untoward like we had with VBS. Remember that debacle? And you can understand the apprehension around that because we had poor communities who have put deposits into VBS, and we've been through this before. The stories are not pleasant at all. But it appears that at the bottom of this is the fact that this bank just eroded its capital. Capital is needed to venture into different moves, but more importantly, to protect the people that make deposits into the bank. And he's given a number. He says it's sitting at 3%. It should be around about 20%. When that happens, I think the Reserve Bank and the Prudential Authority, they compelled to step in, because if they do not, then you have that 4.7 million accounts that you're talking about. We don't know how many people are attached to that. Could be in for some trouble because the money all of a sudden is not secure. And they could have put in lifetime savings into that, Sally. Remember that.
Yeah, we all saw the tragedy of what happened with VBS, with people queuing for days and days to try and get their money. I want to bring Davi Root back in. And Davi, thank you so much for staying with us. I sprung it as a surprise that there was going to be this unusual announcement from the Reserve Bank. It's all about Ubank being put under curatorship. Talk to us about the significance of this. I mean, could this be another VBS situation? What do you see as actually having gone down here?
Yeah, well, obviously I don't know much about Ubank. It's a tiny bank in South Africa. I don't think it's going to have much of an impact on the financial system in South Africa, because it's such a small bank. I'm just having a look at its website. The website went down, by the way, and I see last year they made or the year before they made a loss of about 120, and last year they made a loss of about 135 million rand. So obviously this is not a very profitable bank, or at least that's what it looks like. But I think what is important here is there are two aspects that are important, and the governor actually emphasized those two aspects. Usually when a bank gets into trouble, it is a so-called run on the bank. Basically what it means, all the depositors or many depositors start withdrawing their deposits from the bank, and the bank, there's no single bank that they have enough money, well, so to speak, in the bank to pay all their depositors back, because that's the nature of our so-called fractional reserve system that we have in South Africa. So that's why banks need to keep an amount in reserve. This is not the capital reserve, by the way. So that is not the problem. Liquidity is not the issue. That is usually the issue. When you talk about the bank getting into trouble, it is a liquidity problem most cases. In this instance, it is not a liquidity problem. So I don't think any depositor should worry about its money. The money is there. The governor made that very, very clear. So the money is there. And we know there's no explicit guarantee from the Reserve Bank, but there is a kind of an implicit guarantee. So at least the smaller depositors, depositors, no need to worry about this. This is a capital issue. And what it means for a capital issue, if I want to start a bank, I have to put a lot of money into the bank as the shareholder to start off with. And there are certain ratios that have to be, certain ratios of capital that I have to put into the bank. And if the bank grows and gets bigger and bigger, I have to increase that capital base as well. What happened in this instance, and again, we don't have all the actual information, but what happened in this instance, the total amount of capital, the part that the shareholders contribute to the bank, that has been falling. That's been getting smaller and smaller, and it fell to below that threshold of 20% as the governor indicated, and it's down to about 5% now. What usually will happen with a bank like this, and this is usually what will happen, we've got a curator now, and I've got a suspicion that eventually the assets of this bank will be sold off to another financial institution, and the depositors will all get their money back, and maybe even the shareholders will get some money out of the system, because there is still a surplus when it comes to capital in the bank. So this is nothing. This is really no big shakes. It's not important for South Africa. And maybe I can have a look at the exchange rate of the rand. In fact, the rand didn't move on this whatsoever. So the bit of a weakness that we saw in the currency earlier on today obviously had nothing to do with this.
Right.
Davi, it's Devan here, the business editor at eNCA. Can I ask you then, I mean, just implications of this Ubank obviously has branches. I would imagine there would be implications on job losses. You're looking at a restructuring of some sort, intervention of some sort. So there are a number of branches at Ubank across South Africa. It will affect employment in some shape or form.
Certainly, people working at Ubank, and let me just, if I'm not mistaken, and I was trying to get hold of the financial statements, their personnel account, or their wages, annual wage account is about 300 million or so, which means that they probably have a couple of 100 million people employed. So those are the people, the jobs that are potentially on the line. But I don't think necessarily so, because I think Ubank is a small bank, but they service a certain market, in this instance, the mining market. I had a look at the website quickly. So there are many miners in South Africa and in neighboring countries, according to their website, that they have as customers. And I think certainly there's a niche market for a bank like this. So even if the bank gets sold off eventually, or whatever happens, or maybe the banks will be saved by the curator, who knows? There's not necessarily the case that there will be job losses. I think there certainly is space in South Africa of more of these smaller niche banks, in fact.